Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from Delta CX. We're a full service CX and UX agency, and welcome to another experimental early office hours. It's 10 a.m. in Italy, and I'm trying these early ones to see if they are helpful to people in other time zones. So far, we have not had a very strong turnout, so I'm not sure if I will continue these or maybe I will do them less frequently because they do take a lot of time. I know it seems like an hour, but for me, it feels like a lot of time. And maybe there's a way to do them less frequently or try to help people in other time zones in other ways. But I am here for the hour. If you have any questions, you can ask those questions through the secret link, deltacx.link/ask, or you can ask them here in the chat room. I am monitoring the YouTube and the LinkedIn chat. So let me just turn on all of my windows and we'll be ready for action. But if you have a question, go ahead and ask it while I get my windows running. And we'll see who might have a question today. Let's see. And normally there are questions, so this is the not exciting part of the show where I have no questions. If there are no questions in the first few minutes, of course, I'll wind this stream down and I will see everybody, or most of you, tonight, my time, 6:30 p.m., which is about, 8.5 hours from now? And we're going to do office hours at our usual time, and that will include Larry Marine as a special guest answering questions. So, just a reminder for those of you who are fans of early office hours, of which I think there are only 4 of you, this is an experiment that I am considering discontinuing. So if you are a fan of shows running at this time live, please let me know. Remember that even if you're not able to attend our later office hours, you can always send in a question 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at deltacx.link/ask. And I will always answer your questions first on the live stream so you can watch the archive of it and see your question answered. So I know it is not as live and fun as being here live and fun, but I am starting to wonder that at least at this point, I'm not sure doing these early ones makes sense. R for Everything is here. Hello, R for Everything. Let me copy and paste your question into my list of questions. R for Everything. I hope that you will join if I stop doing ones at this time. I hope we'll see you later in the day. Let me just get this on the list. So, okay, so the question is, and I think I can put it on the screen if I can get all of my systems to cooperate today. Let's take a look. And here we go. Let's see. I made a change here. Did this help or not? I don't know yet. R for Everything says how to include 5-second test results and DSQ results in a usability test report. I'm not totally sure what the question is there. Typically, anything that has good data, I'm going to put in the report. Anything that's, you know me, meaningful, actionable, or helpful is going to go in the report. If for some reason something is not at least one of those, I don't put it in the report. So if you have some sort of scoring, system usability scale, something else, I personally don't use these. I tend to lean a little bit more on the qualitative and describe people's experiences rather than say, this got a 4 out of 5. Some people think a 4 out of 5 is amazing and we're doing just fine and there's nothing here to fix. I would say a 4 out of 5 is a B, in an A, B, C, D, F score. So how do you include them in a report? I'm not totally sure I understand your question because to me, either you include them or you don't. And I'm not too sure if these are scoring based things, then they might be quantitative in charts or graphs, and if these are qualitative, then they're more descriptive, and based maybe with some quotes or some video clips. So can you give me a little bit more color around your question, because I feel like I'm misunderstanding it. This is the breakfast shake, not sponsored by any breakfast shakes. But hopefully there's a short delay today and you're hearing me ask you for the follow-up question. And of course, if anybody else is here, questions are welcome. I'm just checking if I'm missing any questions. And the answer is so far, no. So if you have questions, send them in. Otherwise, I hope to see everybody today in 8 or so hours for the regular time version of this, where we will have Larry Marine answering questions. So get those questions ready, especially about task analysis. R for everything, are you there? Knock, knock. Well, if anybody has a question, please do ask it. Otherwise, I should put a timer up on the screen. And if we go a certain number of minutes without a question, we end the stream, because these streams are just so weird and quiet. And I feel like I sit here for an hour and I get 4 questions. So I think they're kind of awkward, honestly. Let me create a countdown timer for 2.5 minutes. And we'll run that. And if I can't get a question within 2.5 minutes, I think we should just wrap it up. Because 3 of you are watching live and I have 1 question. So countdown overlay, start countdown. I will reset the clock if I get a question, but otherwise, let's call it if we have to call it, and I'll see y'all later. So I'm waiting for questions because it's Office Hours Ask Me Anything, and I was waiting for R4 Everything to further explain their question, but I'm also open to other questions. And if I don't get a question in the next 2 minutes, I'll probably just shut down the stream, because I know very few people are watching live on this early one. And I can't think of a good reason to have a YouTube channel full of Ask Me Anything questions with no questions. Okay, we seem to have a question. I don't know how to stop my own countdown. I think it just has to go. So at the end of the countdown, there's a applause. You might hear random applause. So just know that that's in there. Anne has sent a question. Let me find it. Oh gosh, Anne, seriously? Yeah, this is an interesting question to me. So thank you for the question. And it says, when are you going to react again to bootcamp curricula? So for those of you who may have been watching the new Friday streams, originally I was going to do Friday. I'm going to react to weird stuff that you all send me during the week. And I started getting a lot of memes and LinkedIn posts and a couple of social media posts that were kind of weird, and people wanted to know what I thought of them. And because I got so many requests for bootcamp curricula, I started my Friday streams with Deb Reacts to Bootcamp Curricula. And now every week, everybody is just sending me bootcamp curricula because there are that many bootcamps. And in some cases, I'm also getting university degree curricula. So I was thinking this morning that all of this bootcamp and university curricula is just too much. And I think that it doesn't make sense to take a Friday stream. I've been doing it Fridays, and I will keep doing it Fridays, but Friday was supposed to be Deb Reacts to random stuff, and so far it's been 3 or 4 episodes of bootcamp and university curricula. So I'm thinking we might have to just do one live show where I react to as many bootcamp curricula and university curricula as everybody can send, and then just kind of call that a show. Because I think doing 15 minutes, oh, here comes the fake applause. It's the sound effect I set up for when my timer is over. So fake applause. So I think that I was going to do it every Friday, but I'm thinking that that might not totally make sense because there's just so many of it. And I'm already getting 3 or 4 more. And I think I just have to do one longer show that's going to be about all the bootcamp curricula that everybody sends me. So I would say if you have one you want me to check, I ask people actually to send it to this one. Let's put this up on the board. deltacx.link/reaction. And I'll put that on the list. So send me bootcamp curricula, university curricula, online course curricula, and I will just plan like a 1 hour or hour and a half show where I will just react quickly to all of them. We'll have the countdown timer, we'll have the applause, and the dog scoring system, and I will do that. But send them in to the reaction link. I'll make a long list of them, and I'll just do a fresh show with all the ones that people send in, and I'll do that in a few weeks. So I'll collect them, and then we'll do them. So thank you, Anne, and thank you for your interest in that. You can watch, if you can go to the reactions playlist, and you can see the ones that I've reacted to so far. And but I just get the feeling it needs to be a much longer show with as many of them as I could squeeze in. People want to know what I think of bootcamp curriculum, and for the most part, I hate them all. So you can keep sending them in, but so far, I think the best score one of them got was like 2 dogs, or one of the universities got 3 dogs out of 5. So they're not scoring well in my little paradigm. This is Office Hours Ask Me Anything, and I will start the 2.5-minute countdown again. If there are any questions, I would be happy to take them. If we don't get a question in the next 2.5 minutes, we might as well wrap up the stream, because I will be back here again in about 8 hours. Krishna says, hi, Debbie. What is the ideal way of presenting research reports effectively? The best answer for that is number one, I always write research reports, but of course, not everybody reads them. So the next question is, what do your coworkers need to see for the research report to be effective for them? And I think that's part of a collaboration. I think that we need to work with some of our coworkers and our stakeholders to learn how does a research report make sense to them. So for example, I have a client now and I say, look, I write long reports at the end of our research, but what else can I give you that's going to work best for you? And some clients will say, can you do a video clip montage of like the most interesting things people said, or the most important or telling or severe things people said? Sure. Someone else might say, I know you're going to write a long report, but can I get like the 20-slide PowerPoint version of just the most important things? Sure. So ultimately, to me, the best research report, and we'll be working on one tomorrow in the stream, but the best research report is a long, wordy report, but then we need to make kind of subsets and variations of it for the people we work with so that it's meaningful, actionable, and helpful for them. If we give people a 30, 50, 80-page report, and thank you for the applause, and they don't want to read it, then they're going to feel like research has no value. What did these people spend their time on? They're going to find a way to belittle it. So we really do have to work with people and say, when this research is done, how can I present information to you that gives you what you need to make the right decisions, or move the product in the right direction, or shift our strategy? Ask these questions, and that way you can adjust what you're doing for them. I always say I'm a musician. I play to my audience, and I have to learn what each member of my audience needs. So that's my suggestion, but ask a follow-up question if I misunderstood your question or didn't quite answer what you were shooting for. Again, we will be doing the mini version, the micro lesson of the report tomorrow. Expect it to be fairly microscopic because we're just going to be live for, I think, an hour. So it is going to be the micro version of a research report. Yeah, that's tomorrow's micro lesson. So you can check that out tomorrow. And but again, that's going to be the long form written report, not any of these shorter forms I'm talking about. So thank you for that question. Let's put the clock back up. This clock thing's going pretty well. It's inspiring everybody to get their questions in. I'm going to have to do this more. So this is Office Hours Ask Me Anything. This is the experimental early version. Thank you, Krishna. The experimental early version, because I'm still waking up because it's 10 a.m. in Italy, or at least now 10:16 a.m. And I will stick around as long as there are questions, but then I will not stick around if there are no questions. Human. Okay, so I see the anonymous questions, and let's see, we've got 2 anonymous questions, both marked human. I will take both of those questions now, so disregard the timer on the screen, though it will give me a lovely round of applause at the end. All right, let me paste these into my document. Thank you to the person who sent these in. Okay, just pasting them into my list so that when I go to make my YouTube description, I've got all the things. So let's take a look at the questions, and of course disregard the timer, which is going to give me a lovely round of applause. Hold on, let me see if I can mute my applause sound, because it's just silly. Human clapping, turn off sound. Okay, so now we won't get the sound, and I can hide the counter. All right, thank you to the human who sent in the anonymous questions. Let's have a look at them. The first one was, what are the specialization bootcamps and courses you recommend? Currently none. I haven't found any yet that I really like. In the realm of master's degrees, I've heard good things about University of Washington in America. I heard good things about University of Michigan, though I did poop on them in one of my reaction streams, but I got comments underneath saying like, no, they're really good. And I said, but I'm going by their website. And they were like, oh yeah, their website's really bad. Well, it's like, bad website for a UX degree? Okay, still gets a bad grade from me because I can't tell what they're teaching and things like that. Courses, the only ones I'm recommending right now are curiositytank.com, which is not sponsored. I'm not paid to say that. They just seem like good courses. It's a you will learn UX research from Michelle Ronson, who has been our guest many times and was even here yesterday. Other than that, I currently believe pretty much every boot camp is crap. If you have one you want me to check out, then, let's put this back up on the screen, send it over to the reaction link, deltacx.link/reaction. I will put it on the list for the talking about bootcamp and university curricula stream I clearly need to do because people want to hear this. So if you have one you want me to review, send it over and I'll get it on the list. And that's pretty much it. Otherwise, I think they're all terrible. What you'll learn very quickly if you start watching my reaction streams where I've started reacting to these is I'm looking for 2 things. Number 1, what are you learning? So what's in that curriculum? What are you learning and in what order? And number 2, sorry, just realized my microphone was a little quiet. Number 2, who's teaching it? And especially if this is a program that has mentors or coaches or things like that, who are these mentors and coaches? Who's going to be checking your work? I put these people's names into LinkedIn and I check them out and I try to determine if I think they are really amazing at UX and should be teaching and mentoring and coaching, or if they're super new to UX and maybe they shouldn't be doing that just yet, or if they're totally not from UX at all and why are they doing this? And you can do the same thing. So I'm hoping that if I can do a long stream with all of this stuff, that you will learn my technique to judge these and you can take it from there. The other question I got was, how do you describe service design? How is it different from UX? I keep finding different definitions. Super question. So service design is one of those things where some people say it's UX and some people say it's not UX, it's something else. So to me, both of these are correct. You can definitely say it's UX and I wouldn't say you're wrong. And you can say it's something else like more CX and I wouldn't say you're wrong. So first of all, don't get too caught up on that. Service design is very simple. So if you think about UX as very often being for digital interfaces, it's for an app, it's for a website, it's for a SaaS system. Many people think UX, and some people think UX is only for digital. So in general, people think of UX as being all of our process. You can slide this guy out, that ultimately ends up in some sort of digital product, website, app, system, SaaS, something like that. Service design is using a very similar process, but instead of ending up with a website or an app or a digital product, you end up with something that is more service-based. And so I like to remind people, think about going to a hotel. You might have booked the hotel on the website. You might have done some things related to the hotel in the hotel's app. Many people see these as UX, they're digital. Then you get to the hotel and you start having services and experiences. How do people treat you who work there? What does the place look like? What does the room key have printed on it if it's one of those plastic keys? Now, usually a lot of people think, well, this sounds like marketing. This sounds like things marketing would decide. And I say, well, wouldn't it be amazing if we could collaborate with marketing and have some say in this stuff? Because we are looking more at the psychology and the behavior of people. And we can say, if we train people a certain way, here's what happens that's good or bad. And so there are actually aspects of CX, UX, service design that play into, or sometimes completely control, or sometimes are collaborators with things that are services. Customer support. Who do we hire? How are they trained? What do they say to people? You might think, well, isn't that customer support's problem, or isn't that marketing's problem? Yes, but I think it can be ours too as a collaborator. I think that there are many of us who want to be involved in that because we see it as a human touch point and an area where we are interacting with people. And even if the interaction design isn't digital or traditional in that sense, it's still an interaction. So there you go. We have some more questions coming in. Somebody is on a spree. Hello, everybody. You've woken up. I will get all of these on my list and I will answer them. Lots of curious questions today. Let's get these on the list. That is my new keyboard going pow, pow, pow. And good morning, Charlene. So our new questions are, I hope that helps. Person who asked about service design, let me know if you have a follow-up question or if that helps. Let's make sure I'm getting all of the questions. Human and an. And this company should take me off their email list because I just canceled them. Y'all know it. Y'all feel the pain. Morning, Shannon. Wait, Shannon, what time is it there? What are you doing up? This is wrong. I'm against this. Go back to sleep. No. This is supposed to be for people near me and east of me, not Americans who can't sleep. Not that you're not welcome, but I think you should be sleeping. Is my volume still low? I should turn it up a little bit more. Oh. Let's try that. No one has ever said I'm not loud enough, but I'm thinking I'm not loud enough. Oh no, your baby is up at 4:30 in the morning. Sorry. Well, hi. We'll keep you company a little bit. So the next question says, how did you learn UX? I actually have like an hour-long video on this buried in the depths of the channel because I tell the whole story and it's really long. Let me see if I can even find it in my own channel. I'm also relearning to type, so my typing is really slow, which I know might sound strange since many of you saw me type quite fast, but I'm relearning to type. Let's see. E-A-R-N. Show all. I'm searching my own YouTube channel. Give me a moment. Nope, it's not there. I'll have to find it. But there is a long video where I explain how I got into it. I'm loud enough. And I can't see who says that because for some reason my messaging system writes LinkedIn user. It's Mervin. Good morning, Mervin. You're in the UK. Good. Okay, loud enough is good. Too loud is not good. And thank you for the smileys, everybody. Let's see. So where was I? Charlene says, baby woke Shannon. Shannon saw it as an opportunity and is here with us. Okay. Hello. Okay, so the question was, how did I learn UX? Shortest version possible, because I have like an hour video on this, is in university, before y'all were born, I was studying pre-med and music. And after doing the pre-med courses, I decided to drop science. I was finished with my music major by then. This left a giant hole in my schedule. So I started putting in psychology classes because I like psychology. And I took Psychology 1, and I took Psychology of Music and Psychology of Language. And Psychology of Language was where I learned a lot of the things I use today, like Gestalt principles. I'm sorry, Mervyn, I know that. It's let me just show you what I'm looking at. Hold on. Everybody has seen my screen before, but I'll show you what. So this is what my screen looks like. My screen looks like this. On the left is where I control all of the show. Over here is the chat room. And for you, it just said LinkedIn user. So I didn't know who you were until I flipped over to LinkedIn and I could see it was you. So I don't want you to feel like I'm acting like I don't know who you are. I did once I flipped over in my browser to LinkedIn and saw who said that, because my chat aggregator doesn't always put names. I don't know why. So after taking a bunch of psychology classes, I graduated with a degree in music. I've always been that computer nerd person. I started on computers in 1979. And so in early 95, a friend called me and said, you have to see this thing called the web, and people can make pages for it. And so I learned HTML and I started doing web stuff. But my first thought was I should make web pages based on what I just learned in psychology about how people behave and how people parse information. And so before I knew a lot about UX, I was doing what's kind of at the foundations of UX. And then later on, as I learned that UX existed, I got a little bit more formal knowledge around it, but I'm always still learning. But yeah, my weird origin story is I was that mid-90s web designer who's not an artist. I was a strategist and psych geek, and that's where I started it all. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if you have a follow-up question. And are follow-up questions coming in and I'm missing them? Hold on. No, not. Okay, next question is, how come you live in Italy? Wouldn't you live in Italy? I've been living in Italy over 3 years. I am American from America. Shannon says, I learned HTML in 98. Yeah, I was there in 95, right there with you. Old people like us, super old. Me and the sun god used to write the HTML. Then we got old. Oh yeah, this one's broken. It doesn't slide out. I got to fix that. You can send us the link to your YouTube channel via the chat, or you can edit the event page for this live. What? Now I've got to flip back to LinkedIn to see what's that about. So first of all, I don't set up an event page for these anymore. And the YouTube channel is Delta CX. And so you are welcome to just hop on over to YouTube and put in Delta CX, and this will come up. Or I also have a URL shortener, deltacx.tv. Should dump you on my YouTube page if you don't put HTTPS at the front. It's just not secure. It's just a redirect. So I suggest people in YouTube, this is a lower, I don't know if latency would be the right word, but less delay. So it's a little more conversational and free. I don't charge for YouTube, and I've turned off all the ads. So if you see ads, there's a mistake and you should tell me about it because I don't want ads on. So I live in Italy for 2 main reasons. One is to pursue European business because I've always been pretty America-centric. So I'm hoping to get more business from Europe. And we just had our first Italian client this month. So that was kind of fun. Of course, a little bit thrown off by the pandemic. And And then the other reason is I've got an Italian fiance, but I am not here on a fiancé visa. I am here on an entrepreneur visa to start my company. Mervyn says, what is the best language to learn for UX today? English? Did you mean spoken language? Because typically I'm recommending English to people, especially here in Italy. I think that there's a lot of Italians do not grow up speaking English. And then when they want to work in technology, it's a bit of a shock, like, oh my gosh, now I have to learn English and move to an English speaking country. So I find that a lot of UX is happening in English. So I think that the best language to learn for UX would be English. But if I'm misunderstanding your question, please send in a follow-up question. Oh, wow. I'm getting all of the nasty questions today. I see you, anonymous person. Everyone is, the fire is coming out. Okay. Just after I make sure I've got, well, Mervyn might be delayed 2 minutes because Mervyn's in LinkedIn. So, programming. Oh, Mervyn says, what is the best programming language to learn for UX today? None of them. You don't need to be a programmer. If you would like to be a programmer, you can, but then you would need to decide what is the best language for you to learn, because I don't believe that to be a success in UX or CX, you have to be a coder. I think, just like I don't think that for success in CX, programmers have to learn all of UX research. Programmers don't have to learn this to be good collaborators with us. So in general, I am the person who says UX and CX people do not need to learn to code. And if you'd like to learn to code, it's up to you whether you'd like to learn front-end technologies like HTML languages, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, and some of the other ones, or some of the frameworks, or whether you want to learn back-end coding. So I can't tell you everybody must learn C#. I don't believe that everybody needs to know HTML or JavaScript. I don't believe that. And I know these things, and it hasn't made me a better UX researcher, CX architect, CX designer. It hasn't made me collaborate with engineers any better. If you want to collaborate with engineers better, talk to them. Talk to them, find out what they need, find out what's going wrong in your relationship with them and in processes. I think nothing beats that. That's why I do my talk called Stop Evangelizing UX and What to Do Instead. And I just tell people, it's nice to be conversational in what each other does, but I've learned so much from going to engineering conferences and just listening to what engineers are concerned about. And that's made me, I think, a better collaborator, because I've learned what they're concerned about and what's at the top of their list and what's going right and wrong for them, and talking to people at those events. That's helped me way more than I know HTML and CSS. So I don't recommend that that if you want to work in UX, you learn to code. If you want to learn to code, that's fine, but you don't need to. That's one woman's opinion. Thank you for asking. The next question I see coming in, and let me make sure I'm not missing some other questions. No, I think I'm caught. Oh, no, a few more coming in. Okay, person who is like super writing all questions. I don't know if this is one person or a bunch of people, but I will get all of these on the list. And here I thought we had no questions. We were going to end this stream early. Lots of questions. Okay, so in the order I have received them, the next question, and of course I'm also still checking the chat room. Wow, I thought you had to. So how do you create MVPs? Do you mean that you're more the project lead? Whoa, 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 whoa. MVPs are a bad idea. And why would we be the project lead? Isn't there a project manager where we work? We're not supposed to wear all the hats. We're not. Nobody should wear all the hats. Your doctor doesn't try to specialize in everything. So why are you creating MVPs? Get a developer. You should just focus on CX and UX if you want to work in CX and UX, and let the programmers do the programming. And if you want to be the project manager, you can, but you're probably going to be busy enough doing the CX and UX. We don't have to be all the things. And MVPs are highly flawed and not necessarily something we should ever do anyway. See other videos on that. Just go to YouTube and write Delta CX MVP, and I'm sure you'll get a couple of my other thoughts on that. So let me continue with the questions that have come in. What do you think about Toptal? Why do they have such an intensive process of application? I think Toptal is nearly 100% garbage. So I don't recommend working with Toptal in any way. If you've had a good experience, that's great. I support you. My experience was nearly 100% negative. And so I do not recommend Toptal. I also found that nearly every other UX practitioner I met in Toptal would not meet my standards. So I don't know what their standards are for accepting UX people, because amazing people I know got rejected by Toptal, and the people I did meet did not meet my standards. And it made me wonder, what are their standards? And I think their standards, let's just say they don't match mine. And I don't believe that their 3% greatest people on the planet is true. And of course, if we put on our critical thinking hats, let's put on our critical thinking hats, everybody. Let's ask ourselves a question. If Toptal represents the top 3%, the greatest 3% of UX practitioners on the planet, the people who are so freaking good, why do they need Toptal? If everybody's that good, why do they need Toptal? Why aren't they just getting jobs, either as freelancers or as full-time? If you are that freaking amazing, why do you need Toptal? Now, I applied to Toptal. Shanna says, I'm kind of glad I don't know what that is. Okay, let's say what it is. Is Toptal a standard created by a man? Yes. Charlene says, I started looking at Toptal last year. The process was long as I gave up. Fine by me. So Toptal is a company that is really just a middle person, claiming that they're going to find the top 3% greatest whatever's on the planet, programmers, UX, some other stuff that they focus on, and then resell you at a huge markup to people who don't want to go through the process of having to necessarily recruit and just want some other company to have supposedly found the greatest talent on the planet. That would work if their standards were higher, but I found that now, I was there because I had moved to Italy and it was pre-pandemic, and it was hard for me to find work because people were like, you're where? How are we going to pay you? Can you work American hours? Oh, I can't make sense of this. And I had some trouble finding work, so I thought, well, just put myself into recruiter databases and agencies and things like Toptal and see if people can find me work. And I got into Toptal. But my experience there was 100% negative. I did get some work for about 5 or 6 months. I did enjoy that work most of the time. And Toptal and I parted ways after that. They didn't like that I was a change agent. They didn't like that I spoke out against some of their poor processes that I thought would really hurt them. They didn't like that I had something to say about pretty much anything. So I think Toptal likes Eastern European and non-Western, I don't know what's the right word to put here, but like most of the Americans and British I know were turned down for Toptal, and they seem to want the cheapest people they can find so that they can mark them up tremendously and present them as the greatest talent on the planet. And I can speak to this quite personally because even though they accepted me, am I the greatest 3% on the planet? And more importantly, does it matter? What is this? This is a fake level and a fake score and a fake everything. And I found that the company was creepy and controversial. And I found out at one point how much they were marking me up. And I felt like they were marking me up to a point where I was going to not even be able to compete or get a job. And they told me that that was my fault, that I need to lower my rates. I need to price myself more like the Croatians and the other people that were in the system. And my thought was, I think this is a race to the bottom, but more importantly, it was a race to the bottom of quality as well, because the people that I saw, I remember in the Slack channel, there were people who were writing into the UX Slack channel going, oh my God, my client has asked me to do XYZ. I don't know how to do it. Someone help me. And I was like, this is the top 3%? And who's going to help these people? And who looks bad if they mess it up? They do. Toptal does. Like, I just saw nothing but bad there. So if you're having a good experience there, that's fantastic. You can stay there. You know, there's always someone who had a good experience with something, even when other people didn't. But I cannot recommend them in any way. I don't recommend that you hire people from Toptal. I don't recommend that you join Toptal. And you have to remember, Toptal doesn't have an exclusivity arrangement with anybody. So there's nothing that keeps you from going to LinkedIn and searching for high-level UX freelancers. Put in some keywords, see who pops up, write to them. There's nothing special about Toptal. And I thought their design challenge was pretty shitty. So you got that. Let's see. I think we're getting some comments in LinkedIn. Let me flip my window back to LinkedIn and let me refresh, because LinkedIn doesn't refresh the window. Mervyn says, is Toptal created by a man? You can Google this. There's a guy who was very controversial. He defrauded some investors out of money, but he did it in a legal way, and evidently he's the CEO. So Mervyn says, there's a good video called Why Do So Many Incompetent Men Become Leaders? My gender is responsible for so much BS. I try not to put anybody in buckets. I don't want to put skin colors in buckets. I don't want to put genders in buckets. I just don't. So I would have to say that the biggest problem with the CEO of Toptal is probably ego and greed and some other things, and not that he happens to have a penis attached. So I don't usually associate these things with gender or anything else. I wouldn't associate it with religion or skin color, but that's just me. Shannon says, have you ever used Discord? Yeah, I have one Discord membership right now, but I rarely open it because it's like, do I need more messages in my life right now? Toptal CEO sounds like my ex-boss. Yeah, you can Google him. He got in big trouble a year or two ago for basically lying to investors and lying to his workers, but in a way that was legal, and no one can do anything about it. And he pocketed millions of dollars of investor money. It was cray-cray, and it's all public. So there's always that. Let's take a look at some of the other questions that are coming in. And let's make sure I'm not missing any. Yes, there is another new one. And it's an interesting question. Thank you today for all this turned out much more. I thought this was going to be a total dud, and this has turned out quite interesting. So thank you to the person or persons asking the questions. After the Toptal question, we got the question of, do you speak Italian? And how is it for an American to live in Italy? So I am learning Italian. I have passed the government's test for immigrants for Italian. I will probably have to take another test within 2 years of marrying my boyfriend, but my Italian teacher says I'm good enough with Italian now that I should pass that test as well. We just did 4 days of ACTUR training for an Italian agency in Italian. My boyfriend did most of the talking since he is a native Italian and fluent in English, and I did some of the talking. I don't have a huge business vocabulary, but I realized that there were a lot of words I did know, and that went pretty well. And I even got a compliment on my use of the subjunctive verb tense. So that was very sweet of the people to put up with my slow motion Italian with shaky subjunctive verb tense. How is it for an American to live in Italy? I don't know, only because I'm never sure if I'm the average American or not. My perception of the average American is someone a lot more annoying than I am, but I don't know. I can only say what my experience is living in Italy, and I can't say for American. Now, certainly most people here don't speak English. So thing one, you can't be that American who shows up and says like, why don't y'all speak English? It's like, hey, you're in Italy, speak Italian. But I'm out in the countryside in almost the middle of nowhere, slightly west of nowhere. I love it here. I've always been a country mouse versus a city mouse, and so for me, it's perfect. The only thing that I can't, it's hard to think of something that could be better about living here. But I don't want to sound like I'm bragging. But at the same time, I have not yet found the low ego, humble way to say I live in the countryside on an Italian island. So I apologize that I have not found a humble way to say that. It's definitely not for everybody. Your favorite band is not going to stop here on tour. I'm in the middle of nowhere. We've had to fly to places to see bands or even to take my language test. My language test was not being given anywhere near here. I had to fly to Rome to take the language test. I mean, stupid stuff like that, but it's all a trade-off. So I like living in Italy. I think people should try new things. I think it's been very interesting to be an immigrant. I certainly can't speak to any other immigrant's experience, and certainly not a refugee experience, but it's been interesting to be an immigrant, and I think every American who doesn't like immigrants should go somewhere and be an immigrant and have to learn the language and take the tests and all that. I think that would, I don't know if that would exactly inspire empathy in people, but maybe a little bit more sympathy and maybe a little bit more compassion. Another question that has come in, and let me see if I'm missing any questions. Yes, even another one has come in. Wow, someone is on a real roll. What does your fiance do? He has been on the show a couple of times, and I'm going to stick him on the show again if he will come back, because he's so likable. Charlene says lots of smiley faces, hopefully for the fiance. Okay, so the next question was, is it better to work in an agency or a company as a junior? I think that depends on your standards and your needs, and I think it depends on the agency or the company. Some agencies are a little bit better right now with being open to juniors and apprentices, knowing that people are still learning. They're putting people and programs in place to help people and support them and double check their work and things like that. Some companies expect a junior to hit the ground running, and they're going to put you on a project alone, and good luck. And if you need help, we're not too sure what you should do because we don't have a program in place. So I think step one of answering the question of, is it better to work in an agency or a company, is what do you need for where you are in your own proficiency and process? Proficiency. Where are you in your own proficiency and process? What do you need? And when you're interviewing, find out if that is the environment that they're offering. If they're not going to offer you an environment that has the mentoring and coaching that you need or expect, don't take that job. If you don't need mentoring and coaching because you're a junior, but you're in your second or so year, then maybe you don't need that. But make sure you're asking. Make sure you are asking these things in your job interview process to make sure you are getting the environment you want. I have mentored some people who went for the money or the cool title or the neato startup, and then got surprised later when nobody was looking at their work and nobody was helping them level up, and there were no other UX people at the company or on the team. Even when I worked at Macy's a few years ago, we had a whole bunch of juniors and they didn't give them mentoring or coaching. And I went to the managers and I said, please, I've got a little extra time. Let me mentor and coach these people. And they said no. So make sure you are checking if the job has the environment that you're needing or expecting. And then if it's an agency, fine. If it's a company, fine. I can't say which one is better for you. R for everything. I see your question. Let me copy and paste that into the official list of questions. Paste, save. And let's see. And we will have to wind down questions because now we're running out of time. First, I had nothing to talk about for 20 minutes, and now we're running out of time. Well, Mervyn, I'm going to read what you've written out loud. Sorry, this is my dog heavy breathing. But again, it says, you're not the average American. You're a critical thinker. And that is something I think is really lacking in humans across the globe. Hold on. What is on your head? What is on your head? I know. I'm sorry. But you have a tick. I'm sorry. That was my dog. She came over and I found a tick on her. I'm sorry, everybody. That wasn't nice. Anyway, let's move on. Sorry about that. Sorry everybody. We're trying to get our dogs all set up for the tick season and stuff. So that was sad, Olivia. If you follow my dogs on Instagram, that was Olivia, and I will have to count down time to do the trick. Yeah, thanks, Krishna. Which streaming platform are you using for this live? It's really cool with the animation and the pings. It's a combination of things, and then I'll get back to the other questions. So I use vMix as my studio, which is Windows only. I love vMix. So that has a lot of my animations and overlays. So all the things I keep rolling out come from vMix. And the silly ones too, they all come from vMix because I've programmed and built them in. And then the emojis showing up on my face and the tip jar over here is Stream Elements. It's an overlay that I bring into vMix as a layer. So there you go. Back to the other questions. How much do you charge for a UX project or per hour? That really depends. For my mentoring and coaching, I'm giving people a discounted hourly rate. So if you're coming to me for paid mentoring and coaching, I'm charging $100 US per hour. But very often when people are hiring my agency or I'm doing work, that number is higher. And in some cases, in my agency, we are billing $200 an hour. This is American dollars. So depending upon the project and who's working on it and how long it is and other parameters, the numbers are going to be in that range. 100 for you guys for that kind of thing. But again, a lot of my clients are paying closer to 200 an hour, I would say. What does your fiance do? He has his own WordPress website company. So he is a web guy and transitioning into UX, but slowly. And so that's mostly what he does. Mervyn says, I'm on the autism spectrum with ADHD, neurodistinct, hence the straightforwardness and no filter. Yeah, I definitely don't mind straightforwardness and no filter, and always friends with those on the autism spectrum, but I definitely don't want to put people in buckets. I don't want to say men are like this or Americans are like that. I just think that while some people do think that or feel that way, that's not where I would want to go with some of my thoughts or some of my speech, because I think we can end up in racism, we can end up in sexism, we can end up in ageism, and other things that I know are not part of who I want to be. R for Everything has a question. Remember, YouTube questions can go on the screen. The rest cannot. R for Everything says, how should I respond when a participant asks me a question that I don't know the answer to? I know it's not the time to answer questions, but sometimes they genuinely want to know. Do you have an example of that? Because sometimes their questions are not appropriate and we shouldn't give them an answer. Certainly, if it's a question of how do I use this or how could I have done this differently, I don't answer that because I might be testing them for that. So R for Everything, can you give me an example of what you're talking about so that I can tell you how I might address it? And then I'll answer that. And let's see where we are in the scheme of questions, because I'm going to have to shut down questions for today. And remember, I'll be back in 7 or so hours where I will be doing this again. Excuse me. My usual office hours Ask Me Anything is 6:30 p.m. Italy time, 5:30 p.m. in the UK, 12:30 p.m. lunchtime on the East Coast of America, and I do this every Tuesday. This early one is an experiment, and I still can't tell if it's going well or not. But definitely the 6:30 p.m. Italy time ones will definitely happen every week. You can also see, let me bring this one up again. If you go to deltacx.link/events, you will see our event calendar of all of the live streams and events that are coming up. So they are mostly at 6:30 p.m. Italy time. Again, 5:30 p.m. UK, 9:30 in the morning San Francisco. So hopefully that works for many people. And all of them are always archived on the YouTube channel. So you can just go into the different playlists and watch back anything that you missed. And again, there shouldn't be any ads on any of the YouTube videos. Yeah, countdown timer did the trick. So I should put it up again and say, R for everything. You've got 2 minutes to give me your follow-up question or I gotta go. Because I'm going to have a day and then I'm going to see y'all later. Remember, tonight is a special guest. Larry Marine will be special guest on Office Hours Ask Me Anything, the late edition, and he will be taking your questions as well. So if you have questions for somebody who has worked in UX for decades and he learned from Don Norman in the early 90s, he was one of Don's students, you want to ask Larry. I've got to go check my dog. Sorry again about the shrieking dog thing. Last questions, last follow-up questions. I think I got everything from the... let's see, what do I charge? I'm just checking back from video Ask the Anonymous questions to make sure I got all of these today so I can delete them. Still waiting for R for everything to give me the follow-up so I can make sure I answer the question correctly. Because in general, I try to answer participants' questions quite generally and broadly. But if they ask me, how do I do this or something, then I don't. Oh, Shannon says, put the links up again. Sure. They look like this. I haven't made a shortcut key on my board yet. Oh, no, I did. Here's my shortcut key on my board. I could have hit my board. I have a whole remote panel. Some of you know I have multiple screens. So I've got this, and then I've got my Surface Pro as my board where I set off different things, such as confetti. Yay! R for everything. A question regarding the system, but not the test's tasks. I think in general, especially if you're doing evaluative research, it's a good idea to mostly play dumb. Someone says, hey, does this system do this thing? Sometimes I say, I'm sorry, I don't totally know. I'm just the researcher on this project. And that way you don't end up in a big conversation or because if you start, that you might end up on like a tangent that you don't want to end up on. So it really depends on what people ask. Sometimes I do get people saying, hey, you sent me a calendar invite that said European time. Where are you? And obviously that can go down a tangent as well. So I say, oh, yes, I do live in Europe. Now, sometimes they go, ooh, what's that like? And I go, oh, sometimes I'll say, hey, let's talk about that at the end. Let's get through this first, but then I'll be happy to talk to you about life in Europe. So I would say it really depends on what the question is. And sometimes I just try to deflect the questions or I act like I don't know, just so you don't end up in a long conversation with people if it's not relevant to the research. If it's relevant or then you should be noting that they had this question. And if it's really irrelevant, then you kind of see, they ask a question about the system in general. Yeah, I saw that, but I because you're not giving me an example, I've got very little to hold on to here. I'm just guessing and imagining what these questions are. So, maybe somebody says, hey, does this system have this feature? Now, if it's not relevant to the tasks and to what you're testing and you know the answer, that's up to you. Or if you want to wear your researcher hat, you can say, is that feature important to you? Why is that feature important to you? Maybe chase it a little bit. Who knows where the conversation could go? Don't know. Oh, thank you. Well, Mervyn, I've been doing this like a year. You're new here. Yeah, and we are roughly the same age. I'm 49. So, yeah, I've been doing the AMAs. We would have to go back in time, but I think it's been over a year now that I'm doing the AMAs, and they're now Tuesdays. They used to be random. I think now they've been Tuesdays, 6:30 p.m. Italy time for quite some time. And this is the new one because someone in Australia requested one when they're awake. But I don't think we've had enough people here for me to continue doing this, at least not twice a day. So I might phase this one out and keep the late one. So definitely make sure you're coming to the late one if that time works for you and you happen to be awake or your baby is up. That would be my suggestion and thoughts there. So I'm going to wrap up because it's 11 a.m. now. I usually stay here an hour. If there are additional questions, I will usually save them for the next week. So remember that you can always go to deltacx.link/ask 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and ask a question and mark whether you want it for the early show, which is this one, or the late show, which is happening in about 7.5 hours. And I will make sure to answer it. And if you miss it because you're sleeping, it will be in the Delta CX YouTube channel in the Office Hours playlist. So on that note, let me just check for any final comments from anybody. And are for everything. I feel like I didn't answer your questions very well today, but hopefully you got something out of some of the things I said. I know we can't always talk about specifics because these are real jobs and stuff, but perhaps in the future you could send something a little bit more specific and maybe send it through this link, because this link allows you to ask a question anonymously. Now, I don't know who R for Everything is, but in case somebody does, if you really want to be anonymous, send it through here, and please give me more details so that I'm not guessing what you mean. It's sometimes so hard to answer these questions when I don't know what you mean. They ask a question about the system in general. Not so sure. Hard to give advice on something that blurry and unknown. So I'm going to wrap it up for now and play this out. Quick reminder, we're doing this again tonight, and check the events calendar for all the other stuff coming up. You'll also notice that I'm now running a 50-second countdown timer when the stream starts. Because some of you asked me to stop starting the stream immediately because you need time to get notified by YouTube that the stream has started and join it. So the 50-second countdown timer should give you that time. And number two, I am having one of my favorite musicians on the planet write us a theme song. And I got the first draft of the theme song, and the theme song starts fading out at about 50 seconds in. So that's when I'll start talking. And so I'm lining up the 50-second countdown with the future theme song. So it's coming. I'm going to run out of here. Everybody be safe. Today, wear 5 masks just to be sure, and I will catch everybody again soon. Thanks. Bye.
Delta CX, available for CX and UX consulting, projects, and training. Contact us for a free consultation